Hi, everyone. This is Sebastian Traeger, Managing Director at Reliability Center, and welcome back to another Reliability 4.0 episode. As always, we're on a mission to help make the world a more reliable place. And today we are thrilled to have Derek Wilken join us to share a little bit about what he's doing with reliability. Derek, welcome. We are thrilled to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Derek works with G&W Electric. He's going to tell us a little bit about that, and we'll start to dive in. So Derek, explain a little bit what G&W Electric does and specifically what your role is there.
Sure. So I've been with G&W Electric for about 4.5 years. My current title is Maintenance Project Lead. So I funnel underneath the maintenance umbrella, mostly project-related tasks. And then in the interim period, I'm also juggling as plant manager for one of our foundry divisions. So G&W Electric, we manufacture products related to power automation and power grid distribution, whether it be switchgear, reclosers, load break switches, cable accessories, items like that.
Great. Well, what I always like to hear from folks is just kind of their origin story. So how did you end up in kind of the maintenance reliability space? Like what got you into that world and what's kind of that origin story?
Sure. So growing up, pretty hands-on guy, into motorcycles, ATVs, all the hooligan things, growing up, and getting out of high school, did a little bit of community college, got into the blue collar trades, got into manufacturing, went from the operations side into the maintenance side of things, started out as a tier one automotive supplier, manufacturer company. And then about 4.5 years ago, made the transition over to G&W Electric right before COVID.
Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting to me I've probably done about 25 of these interviews, and how many folks I ask that kind of origin story question. And there's some like to do things with my hands growing up was already doing. So it's fascinating to me that's kind of one of those early markers to some extent. So if anyone's listening, has a kid who is good with their hands, enjoys tinkering with things, hey, this is potentially like a great field for folks to start thinking in. So that's really helpful. I also like to know, what do you like to do outside of work? Obviously, work is an important part of life, but not all of it. So what else do you do when you're not in work?
Sure. Married, been with my wife 5 years, been together 12 years. We have 2 kids, 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So if I find opportunity right now, going into fall, it's usually football season. So
That's
trying
great.
to watch the Bears, and that's about it.
Yeah, 2 and 4. That's you're right in the middle of it. You're in the thick of it, aren't you?
Definitely. Every day it's a battle.
It's good. Well, it's a joy. So that's great. So let's return to kind of work in your job. And what I want to understand is, at a high level, we always like to talk strategy and try to think, yes, we want to understand the mechanics of what you do, but bigger picture, what are the kind of the KPIs or the big strategic goals that you all kind of fall under that you're really solving for?
Sure. As I said, I funnel underneath the maintenance umbrella. So we have the director of maintenance and facilities as my boss, and I work kind of in line with the maintenance supervisors and then their whole team of technicians. So a lot of the KPIs that I follow kind of piggyback off of what they're doing. And the biggest KPI probably that we hold to heart for us internally would be the PM completion percentage. So on an average month between our 3 facilities in the Chicagoland area, we generate somewhere around 600 to 700 PMs. Most of them generate on a monthly frequency as a static PM. And some of them may be simple, like oil inspection, a filter change, and some of them are really in-depth PMs. So we figured out that as long as our PM completion percentage is high each month, then it seems the fires stay away. And that's the direct correlation we've been able to figure out.
So when you all do that, I'm very interested in this because of some of the things we're thinking about. Do you all prioritize those 2 things? 1, do you prioritize them? 2, do you try to score them for some level of effort versus impact? So when you said, I think 600 PMs, I could definitely see where you're just like, hey, if we just get them done, we trust that some are going to be very high leverage, some are maybe simpler, but on the whole, that's the metric. But I am curious if you try to score them for effort versus impact.
Effort versus impact, not necessarily, but we do have critical items that have to get done as top priority versus some other machines, whether that be redundancy built into the layout, whether that be, for example, your compressors that feed the facility your air. Obviously, that's going to be a top priority one. And also, we do see if there's trends where even if we're doing a high completion percentage, and we're still seeing some fires, then we have to go back to the drawing boards and realize, is there a gap in the process? Is it a gap in training? Is it a gap in effort? Is it a gap in frequency? or is there a specific task on the PM that's being missed? So
Okay.
usually between one of those aspects, something will help us figure out the dotted lines to each other and be able to tighten things up.
Okay. So just to say again, percentage complete, and then you do tackle the high priority ones. So this is kind of in the weeds, but are you labeling of those 600? Is it more of a intuition, you know what the high priority are, or is there a mechanism that lets the team know this is a high priority one?
There's a mechanism within the CMMS program that we use. So that way, when we dispatch these tickets we have somewhere around 25 maintenance technicians. As we allocate that workload to them on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, they know where the priorities lie. And it's been working out very well for us. We're very blessed that, again, not to brag, but we generally accomplish about 98% or better of our PMs each month.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So in that sense, scoring them and everything doesn't really matter if you're only
Correct.
missing 12 a month, right? 2% of 600. That's incredible. That is pretty amazing. So a good segue, because you mentioned a CMMS, what tools do you find indispensable in your work? Could be Excel, it could be your phone, could be your CMMS. What are some of those tools that are indispensable for you all?
For us, besides the CMMS software we use itself, it's by Fluke product. It's called eMaint. That's our preferred vendor. Besides the actual software itself, the biggest tool would probably be the maintenance team. Everyone has their own tablet, so it allows them to travel effectively and efficiently through the different facilities we have versus going back to a stationary laptop or a desktop. They're able to move on the fly a lot quicker and efficiently.
That's good. So the software coupled with that tool kind of gives you everything you
Definitely
need effectively. I am curious. We obviously are a company that does root cause analysis, so we're always interested to hear how important is that to other folks in the market. So how important is root cause analysis for your maintenance team, and how frequently are you doing RCAs?
For RCAs itself, of course, it's going to be important and impactful on all departments, when it comes to reliability, safety, and working efficiently. A lot of the root cause analysis generally dies from some of the different engineering departments, and they usually take lead on some of those aspects. When it comes to myself or members of the maintenance side, diving into a new machine or a new process and things like that, usually it funnels down just due to an aging piece of equipment or something that's proven unsafe over time. But when it comes to the more analytics for efficiencies and speeds like that, that usually funnels more underneath the engineering side.
Makes sense. Yeah. So for you all, executing on your PMs may or may not be necessary to kind of do those, to kind of knock out those PMs. It's good. As you think about, again, we like on this podcast to think about technology on a practical way. And so are you seeing, AI is obviously a big thing right now. Are you seeing AI yet helping in the work that you all are doing, whether it's suggesting shortcuts for executing on PMs or giving you answers? Are you seeing any of that start to happen in your work?
It seems like some of the CMMS platforms are starting to integrate AI. So if I'm to put in and create an asset or a machine, for example, a compressor, they're able to use that asset description and help make suggestions based on what a typical PM would look like on that machine. And they can even forecast what some of those frequencies would look like. So they're taking some of the guesswork out of it for you, which is kind of cool. But to say we're integrated with AI, I don't think so. We're kind of tinkering with it and just taking it for face value and taking it for suggestions. But we are integrating our CMMS software into our MES platform. So that kind of gets into the IoT of things, which will be more to come with that.
So on that front, one of the things whenever you bring technology, especially predictive technology, to bear is that sometimes the answers seem to line up with the real world, right? So I remember way back on a work project I was on where I had to build a predictive pricing model, and we showed it to the people who were going to use it, and the answers it gave were so out of left field that it was clearly not ready for prime time. I had to go back to the drawing board. So I am curious, when you think about even the recommendations and frequency, is it starting to get intelligent enough that it's actually accurate? Or to your point, is it still like, it's a suggestion, but at the end of the day, it's still not calibrated closely enough to reality?
I think it's getting better, definitely getting better. When it comes to more of the simplistic items, I think the relatability is definitely there. But like you said, for some of the more niche applications, it isn't fully caught up yet. But as with anything with technology, we're only trending in the right direction, and it's going to keep going. So we'll get there eventually.
So you're pro. You don't feel threatened by it. You don't feel like it's going to hurt anything. You just think it'll help.
Not within my world. I'm sure other people within different departments and different sectors may feel differently, but in terms of maintenance reliability, I've definitely embraced it.
That's great. That's good to hear. Are there other innovations you're seeing, whether technologically or operationally, that you just think, hey, people should keep their eye on this?
Definitely. As with many manufacturing companies that are ISO certified, or if you're in the automotive field and you're IATF certified, besides preventive maintenance, the big push is obviously predictive maintenance. And they want to see what you are doing in that space. So whether it be oil analysis, whether it be condition monitoring sensors on various critical equipment, that's something big that we're going to be pushing for as well. Whether it be thermal scans in some of your electrical cabinets, definitely getting ahead on the predictive maintenance side is a key contributing factor.
Great. Yeah. So that's where you're seeing AI in terms of the PMs, and then predictive maintenance technology being an innovative tool. Well, I do think it's an exciting world ahead. That's why we call this podcast Reliability 4.0, because we are anticipating just technology becoming more and more of an assistant in helping people do their jobs better and better. And as I always think about with technology, and you referenced football, I'm a big sports fan, and think about how in the world of scouting, analytics has become a much bigger component, but that never replaces the need for experts to be able to kind of provide that on ground wisdom. And so I think folks like yourself are only going to get more valuable as you become users of this technology that can assist you in what you're doing.
Definitely.
So, for sure. I'd love to hear kind of one final word from you. So as you think about talking to this audience, would love to hear maybe some part of expertise or some nugget of wisdom you'd like to pass on to others that maybe we haven't covered. Any final word that you have?
On any big project, if you're working on something on the floor, something related to machinery, something to do with production and the process, never forget about the operators. They're the ones that run these machines every single day. They're the ones that punch the clock. They're the ones that work the weekends. Always get their input and value that input. Whether we're degreed, whether we're in leadership roles, whether we've seen other things at other companies, always value what input they have, but take it for face value as well. So when you're looking into a new integration, a new process, a new machine, always get their input, see what they have to say, see what struggles they've had, see what they think would work.
That is a great piece of advice. And just a quick follow-up to that, have you seen that done well, either at your company or elsewhere, where kind of the operators were brought into, whether an integration decision or a strategy decision?
Previous company, I had the bad end of the stick when it comes to that. And then luckily here at G&W Electric, they're the ones that ingrained that into my thought process.
That's great. That's fantastic to hear. Well, I've heard that before from others, and I think it's a great note to sound, and just reminding leaders of teams to make sure they provide some form or some mechanism to get input from that team. Well, it's been great. Again, we've had Derek Wilken today on Reliability 4.0. Thank you so much for joining us. And to all the listeners here, again, this podcast is about helping engineers and really anyone learn to take steps to successfully integrate technology into what they're doing. If you happen to be looking for RCA training or resources or materials, encourage you to check out reliability.com. If you're looking to dig deeper into RCAs, then we encourage you to check out our in-house software, Easy RCA. Again, that's all we have for today. Derek, again, thank you so much for joining us. And to everybody, we appreciate being on the journey with you to make the world a more reliable place. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.